What if I told you the best AMD GPU, 7900 XTX, is getting absolutely crushed in Alan Wake 2, especially with all the new technologies? Definitely a 4070 Ti seems to be beating it at 1440p by like a wide margin. You can't even use the new technologies on the 7900 XTX. Is that what you want out of a $1,000 GPU? I'm not sure. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that I found out by just playing through the game. So recently I showed you in Alan Wake 2, the 4090 at 4K is really a 1440p GPU. For you to be able to natively run it, you can't do it at 4K. You're going to get about 25 FPS with path tracing on and ray tracing. We're testing max graphics here. This is the best technology. We have to see what's out there that's going to be really ready to handle this type of technology. At 4K, the best resolution that we really have now, and well, I guess that could be subjective. Ultra wide is good too. Let me just, go back a little bit. But at 4K, that's like one of the, nicer resolutions you can use. Path tracing with ray tracing. 4090 only hit around 25 FPS. You have to do DLSS on quality to be able to get above 60 FPS. It's not a terrible thing. This game can do DLSS and that's not too bad. For the 4070 Ti struggled at 1440p, only getting 25 FPS natively with the same settings. Then you have to use DLSS 3 on quality to be able to get above 60 FPS. Now, what about a 7900 XTX? This is going to be the fastest AMD GPU. Now, just know that AMD's ray tracing is not on the same level as NVIDIA, especially with path tracing. Path tracing is the cherry on top of new technology, so don't think that it's going to, perform anywhere near what NVIDIA is going to do. Let's take a look. This is going to be at 1440p. I'm not putting the 7900 XTX at 4K because it's going to get demolished. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows 10 Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. Look, 1440p, max graphics with ray tracing and path tracing. You can see here full screen. We're doing native. We're doing 2560 by 1440. Obviously, you don't get the DLSS frame generation. That's only on RTX 4000. And then let's take a look at the settings. Everything on high or ultra when it allows us. And as we go down a little bit more, on high, and you can see we don't have DLSS ray reconstruction, but path tracing and ray tracing are on. And then look at the stuttering mess that we get. This is 1440p. So this GPU cannot do native. If it's getting 11 FPS natively at 1440p, I don't even know if it can do 1080p, honestly. That's like a big stretch. Now, obviously, path tracing and ray tracing are going to be the biggest items here. So let's take a look here. Let's see if we drop it down to FSR2. Let's see what happens. Okay, we get up to maybe 25, 26 FPS. By the way, at 1440p, this is what the 4090 can do natively with these settings. And I notice a difference between FSR2 and DLSS, like pretty big in this particular game. If you can tell, like everything's a little fuzzier. There's definitely a lot more stuff visually going on with FSR2 where you don't really see as much of it in DLSS. So let's take a look and see what else we can do to these graphics settings to get the 7900 XTX to behave a little bit better in this resolution, 1440p. If we put it to ultra performance, now it looks kind of terrible. And look, our frames per second is only 45, 46. So even ultra performance FSR2, we're not getting anywhere near 60 FPS. That shows you how much of a beating AMD is taking with ray tracing and the new path tracing technology. So let's try to, change some of those settings. Path tracing and ray tracing are obviously what are giving us, the biggest issues here. The game certainly just doesn't really look as good. And of course, path tracing is now off. And as we look around, it doesn't look as good as when I was playing it on the NVIDIA GPU. FSR2 just is not going to be the same level as NVIDIA's DLSS 3. Remember, with that, you're going to get frame generation, which is going to put artificial frames in between. So you're going to get much higher frame rates. And and it does help to make it smoother. So what happens if we completely turn off ray tracing? Let's turn off ray tracing. Path tracing is already off. So then these are two big new game technologies that we're not really able to use. And let's see what happens now. Now you can see the FPS jumps up significantly, and this is going to have no ray tracing and no path tracing at all. You can argue that the 7900 XTX, MSRP $1,000, and even an RTX 4070 seems to be able to do better. Definitely the 4070 Ti did considerably better than this GPU at 1440p. So you can say the 4070 Ti, if it's a game with ray tracing, is going to absolutely destroy the 7900 XTX, especially with path tracing. And that's a point for the RTX 7900 XTX that's taken away, because that's a GPU that's usually a much better performer with rasterization. So that's certainly a big difference between a 4070 Ti and the 7900 XTX when you're talking about DLSS, ray tracing, and of course path tracing. The AMD GPU, unfortunately, is still going to be a little bit behind the times, so we'll see what happens. We'll see how some other GPUs perform on this game. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
Surrounding that thing.
People were right!
The solution has to be in here. sense.